12-year-old Muslim child dies, returns with a shocking vision of paradise. My name is Layla, and though I am a woman now, with lines of age and laughter around my eyes, the most important part of my life happened when I was 12. Before that day, my world was a small, vibrant tapestry woven with the threads of school, friends, and the stories my grandmother told me. I was a good Muslim girl. I loved the sound of the adhan, the call to prayer, that echoed through the streets of my small city. I loved the feel of the cool prayer mat under my forehead. I fasted during Ramadan with the earnest pride of a child eager to please. God, to me, was a kind and powerful grandfather who lived in a beautiful garden called Jannah, and he watched over us, pleased when we were good and sad when we were naughty. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was the hero of the best stories my father would read to me, a brave and kind man who brought us the words of God. My faith was a comfortable blanket, a collection of beautiful stories, rituals, and rules that gave my life shape and meaning. I tried to be good. I shared my toys. I obeyed my parents. I never missed my prayers. My understanding of paradise was simple and literal, taken from the vivid descriptions in the Quran. It was a place of rivers of milk and honey, of beautiful clothes, of delicious fruits, and of no more sadness. My goal, as a good Muslim girl, was to follow all the rules so that one day Allah would let me into this beautiful garden. My mother, a woman of deep and practical faith, taught me that kindness was the most important prayer. My father, a scholar of Islamic history, taught me the importance of knowledge and tradition. They were good, loving parents who gave me a faith that was both beautiful and secure. I was a happy child, secure in my world, in my family, in my faith. I was certain I knew the rules of the game, and I was doing my best to win. I had no idea that the game was not what I thought it was, and that the garden was far more strange and beautiful than I could ever have imagined. The architect of paradise was about to give a personal tour to a 12-year-old girl, and it would change everything. The crisis came on a beautiful spring day. My family was on a picnic in the mountains outside the city. The air was fresh, the sky a brilliant, cloudless blue. I was chasing a butterfly, my laughter echoing in the clear air, when I missed my footing on a patch of loose rock near the edge of a steep ravine. The world tilted sideways. For a terrifying, silent moment, I was suspended in the air. I saw my father's horrified face, his mouth open in a scream I couldn't hear. I saw my mother's hand reaching out for me, too far away. Then, I was falling. The fall was a dizzying, weightless tumble, a blur of green trees and brown rock. There was no pain, just a profound and overwhelming sense of surprise. My last thought was not a prayer, but a simple, childlike question. What is happening? And then, a sudden, jarring impact, and the world went black. But the blackness was not an end. It was a transition. The sensation of falling stopped, replaced by a feeling of floating, of being held, of a peace so profound and so complete that it was like sinking into the softest bed in the universe. I was no longer in the ravine. I was hovering in the air, looking down at a scene of frantic activity. I saw my father, his face a mask of anguish, scrambling down the steep incline. I saw my mother, on her knees at the edge of the ravine, her hands covering her face. And I saw a small body, my body, lying crumpled and still among the rocks below. I looked at the scene with a strange, serene detachment. I felt sad for my parents, for the terrible pain they were feeling, but I didn't feel sad for the little girl on the rocks. She was just a doll I had left behind. Her story was over. Mine was just beginning. The scene below me began to fade, the colors washing away as if in a gentle rain. The sounds of my father's desperate shouts and my mother's weeping dissolved into a perfect, loving silence. I was being drawn upwards, away from the world of pain and sorrow, into a new reality. The world I entered was not a garden, not a palace. It was a place made of pure, living color, a swirling, vibrant, joyful symphony of hues that had no name on earth. It was a world of light and music, and the light was the music, and the music was the light, and both of them were love. I was floating in an ocean of this living, joyful color, and I was not alone. From the heart of the swirling light and music, a presence emerged. It was not a man with a white beard, not a king on a throne. It was a vast, gentle, an infinitely powerful consciousness, a being made of pure light and pure love. I knew, with the simple, unshakable certainty of a child, that I was in the presence of God. But the feeling was not fear. It was a homecoming. It was the feeling of being held in the arms of the parent you had been missing your whole life without even knowing it. The love that poured from this being was not a reward for my good deeds. It was a simple, absolute fact, like the sky is blue. It was a love that had always been there, a love that was the very substance of my own soul. A voice spoke to me, not in words, but in a direct flow of understanding that was as clear and as warm as sunshine. "Welcome, my little Layla." The voice of the light communicated, and my name in that voice was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. "Do not be afraid, you are safe. You are home." All the small anxieties of my life, the worries about being good enough, about following the rules, they all just melted away like snowflakes on a warm hand. In the presence of this love, they were meaningless. He knew I had sometimes been selfish with my toys. He knew I had sometimes not listened to my mother. He knew all my small, childish sins, and they mattered no more than a speck of dust on a vast, beautiful painting. He loved me. That was the only truth that mattered. Before we explore my garden, the voice of love said, its thoughts filled with a joyful, creative energy, "Let me show you the seeds you have planted in your own small garden on earth." My short life began to play out around us, not as a film, but as a living experience. We were standing in my grandmother's room. She was sick with a fever, and I was sitting by her bed, reading to her from her favorite book of poetry. As I read the words, Jesus, or rather the being of light, let me see what was really happening. I saw that my voice, filled with a simple, childish love for my grandmother, was becoming a stream of soft, glowing, golden light, and this light was flowing into my grandmother, easing her pain, comforting her spirit. The being of light squeezed my consciousness with a feeling of pure delight. "You see, Layla?" It communicated. "That was my love, flowing through you. You made a beautiful flower grow in her heart that day." The scene changed. We were at my school. A girl in my class, Fatima, had a new dress, and I was jealous. I whispered a mean comment about her to my friend, and we both giggled. I had felt a small, sharp thrill of superiority. But now, I was Fatima. I felt the sting of my whispered words as if they were tiny, sharp stones. I felt the beautiful new dress suddenly feel ugly and wrong. I felt the cloud of shame that followed her for the rest of the day. The being of light didn't scold me. He simply held my awareness in his love and let me feel the reality of what I had done. "The hurt is as real as the love, my child." The voice communicated, its tone one of infinite, gentle sadness. "Both are seeds. One grows a flower, the other grows a weed. The garden is made of both." We saw other scenes. The time I gave half of my lunch to a poor boy on the street, and I was allowed to feel the surge of warmth and relief that went through him, a feeling of being seen, of being cared for. It was a brilliant, sun-like seed. The time I broke my brother's favorite toy and hid it, and I was allowed to feel his confusion and his deep, personal hurt, a small, dark, thorny seed. The lesson was so simple, a child could understand it. Life was a garden. Every action, every word, every thought was a seed, and the garden was real. It was not a metaphor. Now, the voice of the beloved said, its energy shifting from reflective to a feeling of vibrant creative joy. "Now you are ready. I will show you the shocking truth of paradise." The world of my memories dissolved, and what I saw next was so beautiful, so strange, so utterly beyond anything I had ever conceived, that my soul could only gasp in silent, ecstatic wonder. We were standing in a place that was both a garden and a city, a landscape and a work of art, all at the same time. But nothing was fixed. Everything was in a constant state of beautiful, creative flux. The rivers I had read about were not rivers of milk and honey. They were flowing, shimmering currents of pure emotion. One river was a deep, tranquil blue, and as I got closer, I realized it was made of every moment of peace and serenity that had ever been felt by a human soul. Another river was a sparkling, bubbling current of silver light, and it was made of all the laughter and pure, unadulterated joy that had ever existed. The trees in this garden were not made of wood and leaves. They were living, growing structures of creativity. I saw a tree that was made of all the beautiful music ever composed, its branches intricate melodies, its leaves quivering harmonies. I saw another tree that was made of all the great works of art ever painted. Its trunk a solid mass of color, its branches shimmering with a billion different images. And the trees were not static. They were growing, changing, as new music and new art were being created on Earth. The most beautiful and shocking thing of all were the houses or mansions I had read about. They were not buildings of brick and mortar. They were vast, crystalline, intricate structures that seemed to be woven from pure light. I looked closer at one, and the being of light allowed me to understand what it was. It was a house built from acts of love. I saw a single, luminous brick, and I knew it was the moment a mother had stayed up all night with a sick child. I saw a beautiful, arching window, and I knew it was formed from the act of a stranger stopping to help someone who had fallen. I saw a whole, shimmering wall that was built from the lifelong, selfless love of a teacher for her students. These were not rewards for good deeds. The good deeds themselves, the love itself, had become the very substance of this heavenly reality. This is the secret, my beloved Layla. The voice of God communicated, its joy and love, a palpable, creative force. You do not earn paradise by being good. You build paradise by being loving. Every act of true, selfless love on earth does not earn you a place here. It sends a brick. It sends a flower. It sends a note of music. You are not my servants, working for a wage. You are my children, my co-artists, my partners in the creation of this ever-growing, ever-changing masterpiece. This is our shared project. This is our home. I looked around at this breathtaking, living, growing reality, and a question, a 12-year-old's question, formed in my mind. But where are all the people? The being of light laughed, a sound like a billion wind chimes. They are here, little one. They are the garden. He then allowed me to see in a new way. I looked at a beautiful, vibrant flower, a flower whose petals were made of a color I had never seen before. And I knew with absolute certainty that this flower was my grandmother's love for me. It was not a representation of her love. It was her love, given a new and beautiful form. I looked at a vast, soaring structure of music, and I knew it was the soul of a great composer, living on in the beauty he had created. We were not separate from the garden. We were the garden. Our love, our joy, our creativity, our very essence became the substance of this divine reality. And what about the people who plant weeds? I asked, thinking of the gray ripples, the thorny seeds. The vision shifted. The being of light didn't show me a place of fire. He showed me a place of emptiness. It was a gray, barren, formless wasteland. It was not a place of punishment. It was a place of absence. I saw a soul that had lived a life of selfishness, a soul that had never planted a flower of love or sent a single brick of kindness. And this soul was simply alone. It had no place in the beautiful, interconnected garden of love because it had contributed nothing to it. It was not locked out. It simply had no home to go to because it had never built one. The only punishment, my child, the voice said, its tone now infinitely sad, is to be separate from love. And that is a choice each soul makes for itself, moment by moment, day by day. The revelation was complete. The simple, rule-based religion of my childhood had been replaced by a dynamic, creative, and breathtakingly beautiful reality. Life was not a test. It was an art project. God was not a distant judge. He was a loving, creative partner. Paradise was not a future reward. It was a present act of creation. A new, fierce desire filled my soul. I had to go back. I had to tell everyone. I had to tell them to stop worrying so much about the rules and to start being artists, to start being gardeners, to start building this beautiful place with their love. You see now, my little builder, the voice said, a gentle but firm command in its tone. You understand the true work. You must go back. You must be my messenger. A part of me, the child who had found the ultimate safety in love, wanted to stay forever. But the urgency of the message was too great. I had seen the blueprint, and I knew the world was full of people who were sitting idle, not knowing they were meant to be builders. Go and tell them, the divine voice commanded. Its love a shield that banished all fear. Tell them to stop seeing their lives as a waiting room for death. Tell them their lives are the workshop. Every act of kindness, Every song, every shared meal, every moment of forgiveness is a sacred act of cosmic construction. Tell them I am not a king demanding obedience. I am an artist begging them to pick up a brush and paint with me. Go, Layla, be a master builder. My 12-year-old heart, now filled with a purpose far beyond my years, consented. Yes, I whispered. I'll go. The instant I agreed, the world of living color and loving music vanished. I was slammed back into my body with a violent, agonizing jolt. A gasp of air, cold and sharp, filled my lungs. The world came rushing back, a confusing blur of pain, bright lights, and worried voices. I was in a hospital bed. A doctor was shining a light in my eyes, his face a mask of utter disbelief. Her pupils are responsive, he said, his voice shaky. I don't understand. She had no brain activity for over 20 minutes. My parents were there, their faces a mess of tears and disbelief. My mother was clutching my hand, whispering prayers of thanks. My father was just staring, his scientific mind completely overwhelmed by the impossible reality of me looking back at him. My body was broken, but my spirit was whole and on fire with the truth I had seen. The healing was slow and difficult. I had to learn to walk again. But through it all, the memory of the garden, the vibrant, living reality of it, was my constant companion. I tried to tell my parents what I had seen. My mother listened with wide-eyed wonder, her heart open to the beautiful mystery of it. A garden we build with love, she would repeat, a smile on her face. Of course, that makes perfect sense. My father, my dear logical father, struggled. He saw my vision as a beautiful, intricate hallucination, a coping mechanism created by a traumatized brain to make sense of the abyss. It's a wonderful story, Layla, he would say gently, a beautiful metaphor for a good life. But I knew it wasn't a metaphor. I had been there. I had seen the blueprints. I was a builder, and I had work to do. Being a 12-year-old with a divine commission is a strange and often lonely path. The world of my friends, the world of school and games, seemed small and pale in comparison to the vibrant reality I now knew. How could I explain that the real game was not about winning but about building? How could I explain that every act of kindness was a brick in a heavenly mansion? I tried. I told my friends, my teachers, anyone who would listen. Most of them smiled politely, the way adults do when a child tells a fantastical story. They saw it as a beautiful dream, a product of my near-death experience. The local imam, a kind but traditional man, came to visit me. He listened patiently to my story. My dear child, he said, patting my head, the Quran gives us very clear descriptions of paradise. It is a great blessing that Allah gave you a comforting vision, but we must stick to the words of the book. He was trying to put my ocean into his teacup, and it wouldn't fit. My life became my message. I could no longer commit a casual act of unkindness, because I knew the thorny, dark weed it would plant. I found myself drawn to acts of creation. I started painting, trying to capture the colors I had seen. I started writing poems about the music I had heard. I started a small garden in our backyard, and I would give the flowers away to lonely neighbors. My life became a small, quiet, and joyful workshop. My father watched this transformation with a deep and loving puzzlement. One day, he came to my room and saw a painting I had done, a swirling vortex of colors that no one on earth had ever seen. He stared at it for a long time. I don't understand where you get these ideas, Layla, he said, his voice full of a new kind of wonder. But they are beautiful. He couldn't accept the source, but he could no longer deny the reality of the art it produced. I am a woman now. I am a mother, an artist, a gardener. My life is not the life of a preacher or a scholar. My life is my sermon, and my sermon is my art, my garden, my children, my love. I have dedicated my life to the simple, profound, and shocking truth I was shown as a 12-year-old girl. And now, I must share that truth with you. You, who are living your life, doing your best, trying to be good. I am here to tell you that you are so much more than a servant trying to earn a reward. You are an artist. You are a builder. You are a co-creator with God. The great and shocking truth of paradise is that it is not a place you go to after you die. It is a reality you are creating, right here, right now. Every time you choose love over fear, Every time you choose forgiveness over resentment, every time you choose to create beauty in a world that is often ugly, you are sending another brick, another flower, another note of music to the great, collective, and eternal masterpiece we are all building together. Stop worrying so much about the rules. The only rule is love. Stop being afraid of a future judgment. Start participating in a present creation. Your life is not a test. It is a canvas. God has given you the brushes and the paint. He has given you the light and the color. He is not waiting at the end of the journey to judge your painting. He is standing beside you, right now, with a look of infinite love and anticipation, whispering in your ear, "What beautiful thing will we create together today?"